Good morning. Good Tuesday morning. This is Professor Bauer, week 9, regulatory environment, um, its impact on enterprise architecture. Um, Sorry that I'm coming to you a little bit late, like all of us right now. We're running hard. You may hear a little bit of noise in the background. I'm trying my best to ask I have a tree crew who is working with a Colorado State grant, and basically the state matches 50% of what we spend to mitigate the trees, and so they're all over our property cutting down big scary trees. So if you hear a lot of roaring and whatever, I'm fine. I'm staying out of the path of any of this stuff, but they're cutting and chipping and really helping our land to be a little bit safer and more resilient in the face of forest fires, which are becoming, as you probably know, more and more the way things go. So let's talk a little bit about week 9. We're going to talk about the regulatory environment and just how much um, the law is driving technology. It's ironic today, California announced a proposal to introduce what they call the world's most um, effective and far-reaching privacy regulations. We look to California for that kind of initiative, and it will be interesting to see how this comes out. Usually, the European Union with GDPR and some of the other things are a little ahead of America, but California is probably an exception. And normally, all these, all the legislation in other states will follow, well, like automobile emissions. Ford doesn't build two cars, one for California. All the cars eventually take on those those characteristics. So we'll talk about that. Make sure that you finish the readings. We have a discussion tomorrow on this. We'll definitely talk to the Arch Assurance case to comply with the CCPA, data localization, and the general, the GDPR will be the data protection regime will be talked about as well. So a lot to do from a roadmap, and you've got some writing to do on how these regulatory drivers will affect the Arch Assurance project. All right, so a quick lecture. Actually, we'll talk about this tomorrow night. And so we'll talk about the regulatory challenges, a little bit about GDPR. This is just the beginning in terms of regulatory drivers. I'll get some word on the privacy things in today's news, and we'll talk a little bit about it. But here is just a lot of information here. And as I mentioned before, these are the assignments for the week. Topics that we will discuss. Main provisions of GDPR or CCPA. CCPA is going to be in tandem with this new Privacy Act as well. You've got 3 major providers of public cloud services. We're going to talk about how to get there. I sent you a deck later on in the week working with a couple of people about how to tailor the requirements of the Arch Assurance case and the affirmations from Amazon, Google, and Microsoft about how they can meet those requirements. It will be important as you do that final assignment for week 10. All right, here is the assignment. I tried to highlight the most important parts. I mean, it's bleeding yellow, as it were. Arch Assurance has decided it wants to position for global expansion. You know, why waste a good merger? Let's target the EU, Australia, Japan, China, and India. Now, doesn't mention the U.S., so keep that in mind. Okay, don't drive it from a North American perspective. So the EU, forget the UK, right? Because Brexit is here. Australia, Japan, China, and India. Now there is a spread of regulatory overhead or guidance from these various nations that you're going to have to be aware of to limit financial exposure with hiring, take advantage of opportunities for AI. We're gonna outsource mission critical functions to specialist organizations. They are outsourcing, and the most data intensive and people intensive part of that is claims processing. Next to billing and invoicing and collection and all that stuff, claims processing is what gets you in trouble if you don't do it right with legal regimes. So they're going to outsource all this to another company in Australia. Um, I'm not going to comment, but you know, um, you're doing a lot of movement here, and you're now going to outsource. So the risks here should be apparent to the casual observer. So that's thing number two. Thing number three, Arch Insurance has decided to shift to a cloud first strategy. They want providers of cloud based apps that can manage their customer data. So we know they're going to the cloud. We know they need an international cloud provider. Um, that's why I suggested that Microsoft and you could definitely look at Google, but Microsoft and Amazon are probably come to mind. It's don't have the time to research 50 different companies in 5 or 6 different, 5 different nationalities. And China is unique in terms of what you will have to do and who will have to manage your cloud in the PRC, in the People's Republic of China. So just heads up there as you start doing your homework. So that's thing three. Thing four, Arch Insurance will move all of its remaining information systems and technology to the cloud. Cloud first, cloud always. So this is a major a major move as they're consolidating 3 network operations into one. Now they're going to cloudify, if I can use that term. So those are the 4 data points that you need to keep in mind. The deliverable is the last area here. Leadership is aware that there are many regulations that must be considered. Okay, way to go, leadership. When were you aware of this? Anyway, there are a lot of changes here, so you just got to roll with them. As Arch Insurance head of strategy, or as we called it in the Bush administration, strategery, you have been asked to prepare a report for the board explaining the impacts of regulation on the plans and offer recommendations to address any issues or risks that the current plans present. So 750 to 1,000 words. Keep in mind, you have to harmonize this report with what you're planning to do, not with what we were talking about at week 6. Now we're cloud first, and now we're cloud always. Now we're targeting EU, Australia, Japan, China, and India. So we've got to have a sense of where are the issues. What do we need to do for these 5 nations? A chart for each country. What are the rules? What are the penalties? How do we do it? Something that, remember, please don't do 5,000 words on this, okay? But keep that in mind and make sure that, right next to the security document you just finished, now you can add this part to the final, which is next week. Um, we'll talk about it in the meeting, in the class meeting tomorrow night. So here is the rubric. It is still your friend. Um, Student demonstrates thorough knowledge, okay? Incorporates material from the assigned readings, okay? So make sure you're doing them. All right, specific examples. How do you do cloud with Chinese citizens' insurance policies for Chinese customers who live in China? Let me tell you, that data doesn't sit on a server in Menlo Park or Seattle or somewhere else. So some rules there to keep that in mind, okay? So keep in mind, 2 weeks to go. Time to finish strong. Thank you for everybody. I think everyone's stepping up their game. And hopefully you're learning a lot about how life changes quickly in enterprise architecture and in the IT requirements of the business, which is what you really have to look at. Thanks a lot. Have a great week. And okay, I think they've stopped cutting trees, so hopefully you can hear now. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye now.